Hello, comrades, and welcome back to Ushanka Show. Здравствуйте, дорогие товарищи. В эфире программа Ushanka Show. Today we're going to take a look at another unclassified KGB document from 1981. If you remember anything about Soviet history, you should know that in 1981, the leader of the Soviet Union was Leonid Brezhnev, and the leader of the Soviet KGB was Yury Andropov. So it's quite possible that Yury Andropov dropped off this document personally on the desk of Leonid Brezhnev. So this document is titled Results of the Search for the Authors of Anti-Soviet Anonymous Materials, so-called Anonimное письмо or Anonimka. Okay, so now it's time for the short lesson of Russian or even Soviet language. Урок русского советского языка. Анонимка. Анонимка. That's kind of like a street word for анонимное письмо. Анонимное письмо, anonymous letter. So that was quite a popular thing in Soviet Union when you want to report on your neighbors or your co-workers, but you don't want yourself being exposed. You just write анонимное письмо or анонимка, and you'll report whatever the behavior that you find suspicious. And that was a popular way of reporting on other people, as well as in this case, anonymное письма, that's anti-Soviet letters that people will write or type, and then they spread them around without, of course, mentioning their own name. So let's find out why KGB was so concerned about the silly anonymous letters, анонимки. So these reports begin with Комитет государственной безопасности и его местные отделы, Committee of the State Security and its local units, in 1981, perform a specific job. My translation sometimes is kind of rough, but they specifically worked on this problem of exposing or unmasking of authors and distributors of the anti-Soviet anonymous materials. They also work on prevention and suppression of their anti-social activities. During the previous year, in our country, there were 1,963, I'll call them creators, authors, which distributed 22,502 anonymous materials, those anonymous letters, of anti-Soviet, nationalist, and politically damaging content. So out of those 22,502 letters, 17,440 were leaflets, listovki, and 5,062 were letters. So the difference, leaflets is the one you glue on the walls in public places, and letters you just mail it to authorities or other people. Also, it was discovered 604 graffiti style messages, also anti-Soviet messages. So as you see, KGB was really detailed in particular. So we know that there were 604 graffiti style anti-Soviet messages discovered in Soviet Union back in 1981. To be noted, the majority of distributed anti-Soviet materials were produced using different, they call it tricks, trick methods. Some of them using typografский шрифт, which is printing press letters, so people would steal those letters from the places when they print books and stuff or newspapers, and then they manufacture those leaflets. They use typewriters, homemade patterns, so you cut the pattern, then you kind of spray paint it to make the leaflet. Photocopying devices, which were quite rare in 1981 in Soviet Union, and in some cases, electrograph equipment. I'm not sure what they're talking about here, but all kind of equipment. So people had to have access to mass produce that anti-Soviet damaging leaflets. And here's the interesting geographical reference. Most frequently, distribution of anonymous materials, anonymki, was registered in Ukraine, Belarus. So I was surprised. I thought it would be Baltic states would be in the first place, but Ukraine, Belarus, Estonia, Moldavia, Stavropol and Krasnodar regions, so that's southern Russia, Kuibyshev, it's Siberia, Yaroslav, Omsk, and Tula regions. So all over the place, but on the first place was Ukraine. Very proud of it. Comparing with 1980, so the previous year, an amount of the anonymous writers that showed up in 1981 dropped by 290 people, but the quantity of produced and distributed anti-Soviet and false materials, mostly leaflets, went up by 8,863 pieces. So less people were publishing, but they become more productive. And considering the total amount was 22,000, increase in 8,000 pieces, that's a huge jump. The KGB identified a total of 1,351 creators, including 18 people that produced hostile documents with the terrorist intentions or expressions towards the leaders of the Communist Party and the Soviet government, and 72 expressing threats of physical violence towards local representatives of party and the government. Next part is quite interesting. Out of all discovered creators, so a lot of them didn't get busted, but out of the one that's discovered, and if you remember, we like the heroes that don't get caught. 26.7% were white-collar workers, so almost 30% were служащие. 23.4% blue-collar workers, so it looks like almost equal amount of blue-collar and white-collar weren't happy with the Soviet system. And it says mostly unqualified labor, so like manual labor workers were unhappy. 17% college and high school students, 14.9% retirees, 3.1% kolkhoznik workers, and 14.8%, this is really funny, лица без определенных занятий. It's people without a particular employment, or people in jail. So we had this category of people that kind of worked, kind of didn't. So they were без определенных занятий, without specific work. They worked enough to not to get arrested, to be parasite of society, but they were just like bouncing here and there and didn't have a specific place of work. I find these statistics quite interesting because it looks like people who weren't happy with the Soviet system were spread quite equally all over the place. You have about 25% white-collar workers, 25% blue-collar workers, 17% college and high school, probably mostly college, even retirees. Then some people claim that they were very happy without their retirement. Soviet Union, 15%. And even people that, I would assume the most people who weren't happy about Soviet Union will be лица без определенных занятий, people without particular employment. But as you see, actually people who worked full-time and had a decent jobs, like white-collar workers, they were in majority. So out of those 1,350 arrested creators, 123 comrades were members of the Communist Party, so close to 10% were members of Communist Party or candidates to the party membership. So it was quite a process to become a member of Communist Party. I mean, you can be mentally communist, but not every communist was member of the Communist Party. It's like every prune is a plum, but not every plum is a prune. So first you become a candidate, you prove that you're worthy, and then they accept you to the party. And also 157 were Komsomol members, so that's a young communists. So as we see, out of all arrested people, 20% were members of Young Communist Party or candidates to the Communist Party, like adult Communist Party. And it's getting even better. So KGB wasn't just busy chasing and arresting these creators, they also tried to analyze. So here it says, the analysis of the reasons and motivations of these anti-Soviet and false accusation materials showed that such antisocial actions were influenced by ideological diversions of the enemy, which means enemy radio voices, Radio Freedom, Radio Free Europe, American radios, BBC, in part of hostile radio programming about the events in Poland and actions of Solidarność Labor Union. So 1981, That was the big troubles were brewing in Poland, if you remember. And big part of it was the workers at the Solidarność labor union. So that was the ones that make boats in Gdynia, I believe. So Lech Walensky, famous leader and the first president of independent Poland after events. So that was interesting. So the main reason they said was those enemy voices. That's why they were so jammed back in the Soviet days. So that was the main reason, is ideological influence of enemy voices. Second reason was due to political immaturity, политическая незрелость. So you are just politically not worked out well, so you can accept different ideas. So it's 504 people were part of the political maturity. I think, people try to come up with any excuse. Well, I just was stupid. Okay, so we'll call it political immaturity. Reason number 3, due to the hooligan motives and greedy reasons. 230 people. So maybe someone was pissed at the local party leader just for the greedy reasons. Like he got apartment and I'm supposed to get, or something like that. Number 4, and that's really interesting, due to the mental sickness. 229 people. And once again, if you remember, quite a few Soviet dissidents end up into the mental facilities, like we call them durdom. They were just being forced to stay there. He's not anti-Soviet, he's just plain crazy. So 229 people on that. Reason number 5, due to the shortages of food supplies for the population, 49 people. So they got pissed because there was not enough groceries in the stores, and it pushed them to this wrong path of anti-Soviet activities. So as you see, KGB had a quite impressive breaking down, because number 6 reason is a nationalist sentiment, 29 people. Number 7, hostile attitude, 21. And number 8, due to improper actions of authorities and personal grudges, 21 persons. So improper actions of authorities, so that could be just on a personal level. Maybe somebody was expecting some bonus at work and he didn't get it because he said something. Or maybe, something about the guy who was sleeping with the worker's wife and he was a communist leader that pissed the worker off. So could be a lot of reasons. And also 264 creators were still under investigation for their motives. So quite a few people were still sitting in the KGB cell, and they tried to figure out why the heck did you go full anti-Soviet. So let's take a look what kind of punishment KGB provided for such anti-Soviet propaganda. After the proper verifications checks, the total of 661 creators were subjected to, it's hard to translate, it's called меры предупредительно-профилактического воздействия. So it's measurements of preventive prophylactic impact. So that's pretty much like, no, if we catch you one more time, you'll be in trouble. And maybe I'm not sure what else they could do, but it's pretty much they got like a stern warning from KGB. So 661 did that. So they kind of get off the hook pretty easy. 405 were still checked and investigated. 229, they were having mental issues and they were sent for treatment. So that's interesting part. And 20 will continue serving their prison sentence. So I guess they were in prison and they were just doing maybe graffiti on the walls and they got in trouble. 36 people that willingly chose to make and distribute the anti-Soviet materials as a form of hostile anti-socialist activity were prosecuted according to the Articles 70 and 190 of the Criminal Code of the Soviet Union. Okay, so what they're talking about here, Article 70, it's about anti-Soviet campaigning and propaganda, and it has prison terms from 6 months to 7 years, with following exile from 2 to 5 years. So that's Article 70, anti-Soviet campaigning and propaganda. Article 190 of the Criminal Code is for spreading false information against the Soviet government. So that was a little bit lighter, we'll say, article. You can get a prison term up to 3 years instead of 7, labor camp up to 2 years, or you can get fined up to 300 rubles. And this curious document ends with a quite interesting promise by KGB that KGB is taking measurements towards increasing its effectiveness in finding creators and distributors of the anti-Soviet and false anonymous materials. Signed by Yury Andropov. Dropping off the mic. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video, maybe learned something new. As always, don't forget to like it, share with your friends, and we'll talk to you soon. До свидания, goodbye. Hey, by the way, cool merch for cool comrades is available at the Ushanka store at teespring.com. Just a friendly reminder that my book American Diaries is available on Amazon.com, or shoot me an email if you would like to have a signed copy. Thank you. And if you love my channel and would like to show your support, please click on the link below this video and become the patron of the Ushanka Show. For as little as $1, you can help us grow and create the new, interesting videos about the life in Soviet